Hey, it is Al Beck sitting down once again with Jack Huffman. We did this prior to your cross-country walk. We did this in the middle of your cross-country walk, and now you have completed it. You are home. Thought we would put a nice bow on it and kind of do a wrap-up interview. Of course, Jack Huffman and his wife, my sister Meg Huffman, are in studio with me. And Jack, you just completed a big bucket list item on for your life, man. Why don't you tell everyone what it is you just did?
I did a transcontinental walk from Newport Beach, California to Tybee Island, Georgia, and I was able to do it in 79 days. It was 2,841 miles.
That's insane. And the fact that you were able to do it in 79 days, and as we are recording this, you finished about a week ago, exactly a week ago, right. As a matter of fact. And that was, I also put out on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. I wanted to get people to, what questions did people who followed you online, what did they want to hear from you for this wrap-up interview? And so I thought I'd throw this one out there first because we just answered it. Michelle on Twitter had wrote in, and she wanted to know how many days, what was your goal to complete this? And it was 100 days or less.
Right.
And you crushed that goal.
Right.
At 79.
Yeah, my actual finish was 79 days, I think 13 hours and 54 minutes or 14 hours.
Yep.
Was it 14?
It was 14 hours, I believe you called it, as
and
we were
54
walking
minutes.
up to the beach.
Yeah. That's crazy. Now, what were those last couple of days like for you to get the final push?
They were incredibly intense.
Yeah.
Like probably the last 8 days, I was doing 40 plus miles a day, even hitting, I think, upwards of 52 miles in one day.
When we spoke about you were, 1,700 miles in when we spoke. You were in Texas.
Yeah, I think so.
So a little over the halfway point. You had said that your best day at that point was 65 miles, and you were hoping to beat it. Were you ever able to top that?
No, I didn't cross the 65.
Okay. Which is it's an insane goal to have. Yeah. So it's really not crazy that you weren't able to top it, but you did have a day. And you told us back then that the 65-mile day was also a time that you crossed the time zone.
Yeah, I actually only got 23 hours out of that day.
Right. So you did 65 miles in a 23-hour day. So that's nuts.
He didn't top that 65 miles in a day, but he did a 40-mile day, a 40-mile day, a 50-mile day. So the endurance to do that several days in a row, in my book, tops the one day of 65
I don't know how many
miles.
days it was. Was it? I think it was like 6 or 7 days. There was over 40 in a row.
For 9 days, the last 9 days of his walk, he did 40 miles or more a day.
For 9 days straight.
9 days straight, the last 9 days.
Yeah, that's even at 40 miles. That's 360 miles.
Nick, who wrote in on Facebook, wants to know how bad your feet are after walking that far. I mean, we're talking about 65-mile days and 40 miles, 40 miles, 40 miles, 50 miles, 40 miles. And he has said that you had said something online about how they were starting to bother you a few weeks before it ended. So, like, how are your feet holding up?
My feet are actually in terrible shape.
Oh, God. Sorry to laugh.
I can't walk on any surface without shoes on right now. It's almost bone to road. They're so compressed.
And I'm sure it'll bounce back.
It'll definitely take some time, but I'm not getting as much relaxed time as I get. I'm constantly working on cars and this and that, even since I get back home in town.
Oh, yeah, right back. There's no time because you just took 3 months off from life.
Right.
So you got a lot of catching up to do.
Right.
But speaking of walking, your feet are in rough shape. Obviously, they'd be a lot worse without the proper footwear. And I had a number of people, including my buddy Jason, whom you both know, and I got a couple of people that ask about that. So we'll kind of get to all of them. Ollie on Facebook said, how many pairs of shoes did you wear out? Also, Karen says that she met you in Arizona on day 19. She says she asked you a lot of different questions about your goals, your gear, etc., but forgot to ask about your shoes. So here's her chance, she says. She said, did you have any extra shoes packed? How long did a pair of shoes last? And how many pairs did you go through? And again, like I said, my buddy Jason asking pretty much the same question. And he wanted to know, what type of shoes did you wear? How did you select that brand? And how many shoes did you go through?
They were a recommendation through Hanson's running store that we go to all the time. Yeah. But I like Hoka's, and I went through 4 pairs of those and 1 pair of Brooks.
So 5 pairs of shoes
Five
you went
pairs
through.
in total. Yeah, about 500 miles per shoe. I probably stretched them out in the first half a little bit longer than I should have.
I'm assuming you've noticed a major difference as the tread started to wear on those ones that you.
There's nothing like putting on some fresh kicks when when my feet are just screaming at me. Throw on a fresh pair real quick, and life is good.
Yeah. And obviously, some effect that you would have had on the shoes would come from the weather. Sonia on Facebook said she wanted to hear about the weather that you had to endure during your coast-to-coast walk. We did talk on the midway interview about the major storm that had you stop down for a day. Was that the worst of it, would you say?
The one in Texas was probably the worst storm that I caught, but I caught some bad ones when I was coming through Alabama. Mm-hmm. One of the local churches there had let me catch some safety under their
Sure.
porch, let me charge up my batteries and everything. And
little shelter for some time.
I was kind of leapfrogging the storm for a little while. I was able to, sleep under like beneath a church or a gas station or even a car wash. And
Sure.
I just kind of like, here comes a big wave of the storm, sit for an hour and then leapfrog to the next spot and hope that I make it. And by the third time I got hit hard.
Oh, of course.
I was in the bushes on the side of the highway, like, nope, that's it.
And once you get to a point too, once you're soaked, I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah, nothing.
You're just going to be wet for a while.
Yeah, I have all my electronics too, so I'm always worried about those, trying to keep them covered. But
the big storm in Texas, is that the only day that you lost? Because you lost an entire day.
I lost 2 days.
You lost 2 days.
Full days, he lost the first one when his cart broke down. The second
That's what
full
it
day
was.
was the storm.
Yes.
He did have a couple shortened days because of storms, but not another day that was totally lost.
Yeah, I had two basic zeros, and then I think 3 days where they were only 20 miles rather than my 26 minimum.
So obviously there was a lot of, like, we're talking about weather and some of the different endurance challenges you've had. And Linda on Facebook says, were you ever fearful for your safety? Did you ever want to give up? And also she wants to know, how much sleep did you get per night?
Well, where to start? Let's see, the sleep.
Yeah, by average sleep. How much did you get?
Like 4 hours maybe. And that was more towards the end when I was starting to get used to it. Mm-hmm. It was hard to get used to the coyotes and they're barking all night. At first it started off where I'm like barely peeking out my tent. I'm like, oh, they're gonna get me, and then by the end, you're shut up.
Did you have your trusty bow staff with you just in case?
I lost it.
You did?
I lost it in California.
Right away,
right away. I got dumped on in rain, and we're going over these really rocky roads. Ended up losing my sleeping bag, my bow staff, a bunch of things. I ended up like wrapping myself in a tarp in California, just trying to stay dry. Yeah. And I was starting to get sick, and I was just swigging Dayquil at first, but the desert dried me out real quick after that, as soon as I got through into the drier parts of California.
Were there any moments that you thought, you know what, like even if it was just fleeting, like, I could just jump on a bus or a plane and go home, like, I don't know if this is worth it?
I never really wanted to quit. I was definitely worried about my safety a few times. Yeah. My left leg had ended up swelling up really bad.
Oh man.
To where I could, actually leave a handprint in it.
Did you do anything to it, or was it just wear and tear being on the road?
I'm not really sure what happened. All of a sudden it started swelling really bad, and I just continuously talked myself into keep going. And just like, well, I'm just going to walk on it anyway. I don't care. And it finally, after quite a while, it started to dissipate. And
so a lot of the fearful moments you had are just like your body, you're afraid your body was going to fail.
Some of my body, I was pushing myself to such a level that, especially towards the end there, where I was forcing myself to stay awake. I was falling out completely. I'm forcing myself to stay awake. I hurt my core a little bit. And then even with the cars, there were a few like super close calls. I got caught on a bridge where I actually had to jump on the wall of the bridge because the truck was like right on top of me. So I had a couple I had to jump off the highway probably 100 times, easy.
And you were, you had a reflective vest on. You had
my vest, my lights. Well, even with the lights, you have the cars, what I call the moths, which they're just drawn to the light. So even though I have my light on, they're just pulling right into me. I'm like, oh, gotta run for it, jump off the highway and get out of there. Right. And they just keep swerving towards the light.
Again, talking to Jack Huffman, who completed his transcontinental walk across the United States from California to Georgia. Did it in 79 days. The goal was 100 days or less. Of course, you can, the journey may be complete as far as the walk goes, but if anyone wants to go back and maybe check out some photos and stuff, Walking with Jack on Instagram, jaxwalk.com is the website, and also the name of the Facebook page. And we had put out on my social media, we wanted to hear from you, some questions that you had for Jack. And Amanda hit us up and she said, what were some of the favorite and least favorite places that you went to? She said, what were your favorite? She's got a lot of questions, so we're just going to run through them real quick. What were your favorite stories about the entire walk? Did you meet anyone that left an impact on you? And what was absolutely the most difficult thing about the entire process? She's got a lot of questions, Amanda does. Okay. But so what would you say your favorite and least favorite part of the walk was?
There was all kinds of miserable stuff all the time. I mean, my bathroom situation wasn't great.
You said that you had kind of abandoned your privacy tent after a little while.
Yeah, I mean, I get out into the middle of the desert and there was nothing higher than 6 inches. Yeah. Like there was nowhere to hide. Like, and I'm not walking a mile off the highway to go.
Yeah.
So you just kind of get your princess wave on and wave at the cars going by.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, hey,
this is me and my bucket.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite story that you picked up from this thing?
Really don't know. I mean, just with that, there was just so much going on. I was never in the same place, ever at the same time. It was always different, always changing. I really enjoyed the sunrises. Coming out of the desert, you get that wide open plain, and every day was a different sunrise. Yeah. And that was always really cool. I always liked that.
That's a great memory that you'll take with you for the rest of your days. Yeah. And these two actually really are like the same question here. So it was an unnamed person on Twitter. Her Twitter name was like just symbols. So unnamed. But she said, how was the walk in a sense of your mental health? Did you reflect on life and stuff? And she also throws in there that what you did was incredible. And similarly, Gina says, did you learn anything about yourself while you're on this epic journey?
Oh, I mean, learning about myself. Yeah. I mean, just realizing that, I had it. That I was able to dig deep and find whatever I needed, and I could make it happen. I had a good sense of being able to separate my mind from body and just run with it.
Yeah. Because you were out there, that's the other thing that we haven't pointed out on this, is that you were solo out there. I mean,
right.
On the road, you were by yourself. You had a home support. Meg is here with us, and she handled a lot of, rerouting. You were near a military base at some point, and you had to find a way around it.
Yeah, they're not even on the map. I just, of course, Google, hey, just take this road left here. Great. And then you turn down there, just shut down military. So I had long routes around, and that was the same with a few of the things, just trying to avoid dirt roads. And I mean, I got pretty beat up coming through California and Arizona just on the super rocky roads.
Yeah, Meg, do you have anything that, from your perspective, one of the tougher parts of the journey or one of the more memorable moments, good or bad?
Combination of trying to keep it together, the day-to-day life, and then also trying to manage what Jack was doing.
Yeah.
It was a full-time job routing him across the country, finding a safe route. I did a lot of Google Maps and using the satellite imagery. Let me tell you my eye strain. We zoom in and I would follow, like, he walked 2,800 miles. I followed all of that, zoomed in on Google satellites to make sure that it was paved and that he could get through it. After he had such a hard time in California and Arizona, we didn't want him to run into a problem like that again. Trying to solve issues like when his wheels would break down in his cart and we had to find a contact, a way for me to purchase the wheels from the other side of the country, find someone to be able to pick it up and deliver it to him, and all like while I'm still working and taking care of our son and trying to juggle all of this and make it all work together at the exact right moment.
Thanks, Victor.
Yeah. For real. A big shout out to Victor, because he was somebody that Jack just met while he was walking down the road.
Yeah, he offered to give me water right away, just out of the desert.
Jack's wheels broke down the very next day, and Jack reached out to him, and I chatted with Victor a little bit, and I ordered some wheels from Home Depot, and Victor went and picked them up and drove them out to Jack, and he kept going that way. Yeah. So it was huge, and it was in Arizona. It was at the beginning of the journey. So thank you, Victor.
I think a lot of the difficulties that you ran into were right in the beginning.
Yeah.
And some of it maybe would have been and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe some of it would have been, I hadn't considered that, and some of it was just the rough terrain. Do you think it would have gone different? Because your whole thought process was get the desert done. That's the roughest part.
Right.
And then, so that's the toughest part. So start hard and end easy. Do you think it would have been different if you'd gone the other way?
Probably just chosen a different route.
Okay.
Rather than, I took like some of the most remote off-road desert, like deep in the desert, like some scary situations. Like probably 200 miles between like just water.
Yeah.
And that was pretty intense. I mean, just the midday heat was insane. And you're in the middle of the desert. I mean, where I'm just in like sandy road. I haven't seen a car in, a day or two.
Yeah. Well, on the plus side, you weren't jumping out of the way of those cars that you weren't seeing.
That's right. I didn't have that issue. But
so, I mean, I guess there's that. But, Meg was able to resupply you along the way, which ended up being frustrating, but kind of a funny story that our our cousin's husband forgot to let his mother know that there'd be this package coming.
Oh, that too, yeah.
She received a surprise package and didn't know what was going on, so she shipped it back.
Yeah.
But once we talked on the phone, it was great. She was just very welcoming, and I had a lovely chat with her. We chatted on the phone for about half an hour, and we have a place to stay in Dallas if we ever want to go down to Texas, so that sounds wonderful. I'd love to actually meet her because I haven't met her in person.
Yeah.
But, she was just so helpful and let Jack come and resupply, and she held his stuff for him and eat and shower, and it was lovely that she was able to help out.
I think that's right around where you were when we spoke.
Right.
I think you had just left there, or so that was about 1,700 miles in, a little over halfway. But it did end up being, you told me that story, Meg, after, but it started off so frustrating. Like, oh no, we forgot to call his mom, and now the stuff's coming back to me. But once you talked to her on the phone, she was all of a sudden really on board. And I can't wait to see him. Send it back if you can. Right. And
well, what Jack and I want to say, our biggest takeaway as a couple and moving forward from this whole journey is that no problem is too big. Mm-hmm. So at first that seemed very alarming, and what the heck are we going to do? He needs his shoes, he needs this. But you just take a deep breath, you step back, you look at the whole picture, and between the two of us, we can solve any problem.
Yeah. And I think you also uncovered a lot of the generosity across the country, too.
Entire country,
which was
just amazing.
So cool to see a lot of the pictures that you had posted, but also towards the end there was that sheriff's department that met you,
right?
And there's a photograph of like 6 deputies
from 2 departments.
From 2 different departments,
county and a local.
Yeah, how when you met law enforcement, was there initial like, what the hell are you doing? And then
always,
boy, what are you doing?
Yeah, I always had my little spiel like this is what I'm doing coast to coast, and they'd always have to backtrack like, whoa, what's going on? What are you doing? I'd tell them. I mean, I was always a little nervous at first. Yeah. Like, I'm pro hoboing out here.
Yeah, pro hobo.
But I mean, everybody seemed to be like really on board. They're like, "Well, you have a good night, sir." Mm-hmm. And,
that's awesome. Now, did you start to meet people that knew you were coming, or did that kind of maybe get when you got to Georgia? People.
I had a few people follow my live track and just show up. I had a biker come out. He said he'd been following my live track. He rode his bike 60 miles to come find me. And met me on Highway 9, which Highway 9 is the highway that follows the Mexican border. So, I mean, it was a...
Was that a bicyclist or a motorcyclist?
A bicyclist, but it was the most... I was warned about a road. I've never been so warned about, like, you're doing Highway 9?
Really?
Like, yeah.
Like...
just because it was right on the border. It was only a half mile away from the border.
Right.
And it was,
So you never know what you might run into.
Right.
So that was the only time that you really were warned about like an area you were going into?
Oh, no. I mean, people were always warning me about, it seemed like every state had to be like, well, watch out for that state. And this state's like, watch out for that state. And that state.
A little competition.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the more difficult states, which I really wasn't counting on, was walking through like Mississippi, Alabama, just because they were shoulderless highways. I had to actually have cars get out of my way. Okay. Where a lot of the time, I mean, just walking on the shoulder, I just have to keep a watchful eye, make sure nobody's drifting my way. But when I was coming through Mississippi, just because there were no shoulders at all, I'd have to actually watch traffic, and they'd have to actually physically move over for me because I would be in the lane.
Okay.
And that was, I mean, I had to jump off the highway, and I'm jumping into snakes and ant hills and all kinds of stuff.
And you've got this cart that you're dragging behind you. So
100 pound.
Yeah, it's not exactly like you can just, let me just take a step aside. You know?
Right. So, yeah, watch the highways, I mean, incredibly dangerous.
Yeah. Did you find anywhere along the way that you would like to go back to? Like maybe
tons of places.
Yeah. Like maybe this time in a car, but
yeah. In a car would be nice. But I mean, there's so many like super cool little towns that, just they're really like kind of unheard of, like little gems all over the country.
Yeah. Well, the last couple of questions we're going to get to here, and again, jaxwalk.com, the walk may be over, but, if you want to go check out some photos and videos and all that good stuff, he's got all the Facebook and Instagram linked up on his website as well. Katie, who wrote in on Facebook, want to know what are the 3 things that you want to do first once you finish? Well, I guess it's been a week now, so what were the first 3 things that you were like, I can't wait to have a beer. I don't know, whatever. My favorite pizza place. What are the top 3 things that you wanted to do?
He couldn't wait to see the dog.
The dog.
The dog.
I had a feeling. I wondered about that because when you went down to meet Jack, I was dog sitting.
Yep.
And every so often I would look at him and be like, I kind of wish I could be here to see him lose his mind when Jack walks in the door. What was that like?
He just kind of gave me like a soft hug. Put his paws up on my shoulders and just kind of gave me a hug.
Yeah.
I think the dog was in disbelief.
Right.
I thought he was just going to go nuts and just he's a boxer, so be wiggly all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
And a lot of energy too, that dog.
Yeah. And he was just kind of like, is it true?
Yeah. That was weird. I've never seen that look on his face or anything. He's just like super slow moving and just like, but jumped like right on me, just really softly.
And then he was just over the moon happy, but I think he couldn't believe it. He thought Jack was gone and not coming back.
That's a great reunion. And it was 3 months that you were gone. Because it took you about 2.5 to do the actual walk. You went out 2 weeks early to kind of get yourself acclimated.
Yeah.
But I remember the dog I had, I was super close with him. And the first time I went away for like a week and came home, he gave me the cold shoulder. He was mad at me because I left him for a week. So that's the other thing is when you're really close with an animal, I'd never seen that. I was like, I was actually excited. I'm like, he's going to lose his mind. I haven't been there home in a week. And instead he was just like, oh, it's you. You left me. F you.
Right. It seemed like that feeling a little bit.
But they was like, okay, I missed you too.
Yeah.
So I think that's were there any activities for home specifically aside from seeing the dog? Or was there anything else that you were just like, man, or just can't wait to get back to work?
I mean, I'd like to go see a baseball game.
Yeah.
Go check out the Tigers, of course.
Yeah, we got to get you a new hat, by the way, because I'm sure that one has got to be so filthy.
So gross.
So trash.
Yeah. All my stuff is so gross. I had to throw away most of it.
Oh, I bet. I'll bet. Now, the one of the things that you were trying to go after was a possible world record. Do we have an update on that yet?
I'm not sure what they actually have officially done, but I can still submit everything that I got. Mm-hmm. So I might be able to do just states alone record, single state. We'll just kind of have to see how it goes. I have to submit everything.
Okay. So I'll keep you updated, of course, on the website as well. That was a question from David. He said, just how close to setting the record are you? But to kind of round out the last 2 questions here, I actually got a direct message on Facebook from James. He said, tell Jack the guys from Excelsior Electric in Georgia said that they send their congratulations again. Sounds like you met these guys.
Yeah, thanks for the food, guys.
See, there you go. And he remembers you guys.
Are they the ones that gave you the buffalo wings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Making memories across the nation there.
You don't forget food.
You don't forget food. Yeah, that's right. Well, James and his crew want to know if you'll be writing a book on this journey coast to coast. And I think more kind of expanding on his question about whether or not you're going to write a book is what's next after this for you?
Yeah, well, this walk just might end up being a chapter.
Yeah.
And as far as coming what's next, I'm going to run my first marathon this year.
Okay.
And I've lost, tons of muscle mass. I could do 100 push-ups before I left. I'm down to 20. Mm-hmm. I was really close to being able to do the side splits before I left. Not even close right now.
Right.
So I'm looking to regain all that back. And I'm just starting to get back into that. I'm going to be recovering for quite a little bit.
Yeah. What about weight loss? What was your start? Do you have an idea of your starting weight?
I left at 185 and came back at 175.
Okay.
So it doesn't, I'm 6'3". That's lightweight.
That is lightweight, but that's less of a loss than I would have expected, though.
But it was all in muscle.
I lost like a lot of muscle in my upper body, and then it just went down to my lower body. So I actually lost quite a bit in my upper.
Well, there was one final question we wanted to ask you, and this was actually Dave on Facebook, and you're actually wearing your mohawk up right now.
That's right.
As we do this interview, it's sort of your signature, your business card and logos, you with the mohawk. And so obviously this isn't an actual question, but Dave wants to know, did walking do that to your hair?
It could help. Yeah. It helped.
So that's all the questions. I want to thank everyone who responded, because I shared a photo on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find me at Al Beck Radio on those outlets. So I want to thank everyone who wrote in with questions for you. For me, the last question I want to ask you is, you ended up at Tybee Island. You guys had a day afterwards.
Yeah, we had a couple days.
You had a couple days to kind of, first of all, when Meg called me and said, hey, can you stay with the dog an extra day? I was no problem with me, but I was like, I can't believe he doesn't want to come right home.
Right.
If it was me walking for 2.5 months, I'm like, no, get me out of here. But the question I had for you to wrap this thing up, can you describe that feeling as you were getting towards the end? You were almost there. The last 2.5 months, you're about to accomplish your goal. And not so much the feeling about that, but Meg and Jimmy met you and did the last little bit for you. Can you describe the feeling when you saw your wife and son first time in 3 months?
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Coming around that corner. And, just having everybody, me and Jimmy went and jumped in the ocean right away.
Yeah.
Go finish it off right.
Yeah, all those videos, because Meg went Facebook Live from the Jax Walk website or Facebook page, and you can actually watch those last few steps, pulling up to the beach, Jimmy leading the way, Meg struggling to keep up.
That's right.
And then you parked the cart and ran into the ocean, and you did it, man. 79 days, coast to coast. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's still kind of setting in. It's just so much happened. People are looking for me to pinpoint, certain events or things that oh, this was the best or this. I mean, there's just so much that happened.
Yeah.
It's just, it's coming through the south and all the trees are reaching over the road. It gets really enclosed, out in the desert, it's wide open. And then you get to the ocean again, it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty cool feeling.
Before I started that video on Facebook, I'd just like to share the moment before that. Jimmy and I had walked a couple of blocks down farther from our greeting party. We had our friend John, and Jack's mom came down, and some of the locals from Tybee were there and cheering Jack on too. But Jimmy and I walked down a little bit farther so that we could meet Jack first. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, I'm walking with Jimmy, and then I go, I think that's Daddy, because we can see his orange vest. And he's like, is it? It is. And he started running.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
I had to yell, watch cars, because he just took off. There was no way I was going to keep up with that
I was
little
yelling
9-year-old.
his name. He was just yelling towards me, just running my way.
He just ran and jumped up into his dad's arms. And that was just that for me was made the whole 2 months, worth it.
Yeah.
Because it was difficult at home. It was difficult for him on the road. There was a lot going on, but that kind of pulled everything together and made the whole journey worthwhile to see that reunion.
Well, good luck to you healing and on to your next goal. And I will say, as someone who was back here, Meg was a champ. Really holding down the fort, man. I was really impressed with the way Meg handled everything. So congratulations to you too, the way you handle everything back at home. And
Team
it was
Huffman.
a full family effort.
Full family effort. And like I said,
on your side too.
Yeah.
Everybody's helping.
You're a team member.
I hung out with a little weirdo a couple of times.
It's all good.
Yeah. JaxWalk.com. It was amazing going from California to Georgia, 79 days, and we're waiting on updates on any records he may or may not have set. And the website, the Facebook, Instagram, these are good ways to stay up to date. So again, Walking with Jack on Instagram, and JaxWalk.com is the website, and also how you can find him on Facebook.
Thanks, Al.